Do you remember having your first student council election in elementary school? I know I do. From kindergarten on, I wanted to be the class representative, and due to my lack of political skills, I failed at that goal every year. Clearly, politics wasn't in the cards for me, but I learned quickly on that analyzing processes and steps to receiving that student council recognition was. It's something that in my young adult life has come in handy when I wish to make educated, conscious decisions about the government that presides over the country that I live in. Analyzing and understanding these processes is something that is and should be of high importance in all of our lives. Did you doze off during the 7th grade social studies class when your teacher reviewed the processes of being nominated for president? Probably, but that's okay. It wasn't relevant back then, but now more than ever it is. Our generation, specifically the millennials, make up part of the population that seeks change and reform, and those differences start with understanding how someone is elected to office. As someone who will be voting for the President of the United States for the first time in 2016, it's important that I take the political and social responsibility to engage in conversation and educate my peers, not simply on my political opinions, but how they can maximize their impact as voters. The presidential nomination and election process is an essential piece to being an educated voter, and it is important to understand as an American. Today, you'll learn how an individual can receive a nomination for the presidency from a party and all about the long and winding road they take to get there. So let's start with where their journey begins at a caucus. The nomination process starts with primaries and caucuses, which feature party leaders or party voters at the state level. A primary operates such as a regular election where voters can go to polling stations and cast their ballot for a candidate. A caucus operates as more of an open forum where citizens can go and have an open discussion about the candidates and decide as a group where to cast their delegates. Now, these primaries and caucuses can also be binding or non binding. And the topic of binding refers to whether or not the state is required to vote for that candidate at the national convention or whether they're allowed to change their vote upon the time of the convention. In terms of delegates, they can operate as proportional or winner take all, where the delegates are split either according to a percentage of the voting results or the majority receives all of the delegates. Finally, some are open primaries and caucuses where anyone with any party affiliation can vote, and some are closed, meaning only members of a respective party may vote. Once states have been awarded their delegates to a specific candidate, the process continues to the National Convention for the specific parties. The National Convention is a place where parties can showcase speeches and presentations by significant party members and announce the official nomination through a televised event. In the past, the convention has been a time where delegates cast their vote for the party nominee, but due to the ever changing form of media presence, it is more of a celebration now. The convention is still a useful forum for parties to showcase their nominee and gain support for their specific candidate. Now that it is a televised event, conventions are utilized to jumpstart the campaigns for a nominee and give them primetime television time to broadcast their campaign platform. So now that the parties have their nominees, do we have a president? Well, presidential campaign season is one of the most exciting times in our nation, and now that we have our two candidates, it's important for you as a voter to understand their platforms and understand why they received the nomination in the first place. Campaigns for the presidency feature broadcasted debates and political movements made by parties. However, it is important to educate yourself and where you stand on issues prior to viewing these tools for decisions. A lot of times, the president's stance can be skewed based on information provided by either the opposing candidate or the candidate himself, so it is important to actually review their platforms. Once votes are cast, the Electoral College for each state takes the public vote into consideration and awards the candidate their votes. The majority wins. Now we have a president, so how do you feel about the steps in the process and the educated decision that you made? The primaries, caucuses, conventions, and debates are essential to your understanding of the presidential election and your success as a voter. The generations of today need to be making conscious, educated decisions about their votes for who gains power in office, and this can start through their understanding of the election process. I hope you all take it upon yourselves to research and evaluate your political opinions and move forward in terms of actions based on the passions that you have.